crowded heart of Delhi, where every street hums with the noise of daily life, one family seemed to be living the dream that many only imagine. Their new home in Om Vihar, Uttam Nagar, was more than just walls and bricks. It was a symbol of progress, of independence, of a brighter future waiting to unfold. Karan, a hard-working 36-year-old product analyst, had finally moved with his wife Sushmita and their 6-year-old son into a place of their own. A 3-story building, modern enough to carry hope, modest enough to keep them grounded. To the outside world, everything about this family looked ideal. But what no one knew was that behind those closed doors, a storm was quietly gathering, one that would soon destroy everything they had built. Life had been generous to Karan. His family bonds were strong, his finances stable, and his reputation clean. He had recently been promoted at work, shifting from exhausting night shifts to a more manageable daytime schedule. With this came a pay raise, another reason for the family to celebrate. For Sushmita too, life seemed balanced. Once a travel agent, she had left her job to care for their child and only later returned to work when her son was old enough. Their son spent most of his time with his grandmother, Neeru, who lovingly ran a home-based tiffin service with the help of 2 employees. This tightly knit family lived just steps away from one another. Karan's younger brother Kunal, his sister Nasi, his mother Neeru, and even his uncle Harish, who owned a jewelry shop nearby. To neighbors, they appeared like the perfect Indian joint family, cheerful, cooperative, admired by everyone. Yet appearances often hide truths too dark to be spoken aloud. The morning of July 13th, 2025 was supposed to be ordinary. A Sunday, a day of rest, of late breakfasts and shared laughter. But sometimes destiny doesn't follow the script. We write for it. Around 8:30 a.m., Sushmita entered the bedroom where Karan was still asleep. She called out to him softly at first, then louder. No response. She touched his arm, shook him gently, but his body lay unnervingly still. Panic began to claw at her chest. She leaned closer, desperate for any sign of breath, and that was when terror froze her heart. Karan wasn't breathing. Her voice cracked as she screamed for help, rushing out the door, collapsing into her mother-in-law's arms just a few houses away. Kunal, stunned by the frantic words spilling out of his sister-in-law, raced to his brother's home. The sight that met him was unbearable. His strong, dependable elder brother, motionless. Neighbors soon gathered, their whispers turning into gasps as Kunal noticed something disturbing. Faint froth around Karan's mouth and strange bluish marks etched on his fingers. To him, this wasn't just sudden death. It felt like something unnatural, something deliberate. The ambulance was called. They rushed Karan to a nearby hospital, but hope shattered when doctors delivered the words no one wanted to hear. He was already gone. Shock reverberated through the family like an earthquake. Just yesterday, Karan had been healthy, smiling, making plans. How could life end so abruptly, without warning? Yet the doctors were uneasy. Those bluish marks, the froth, they didn't fit the picture of a natural death. Their suspicions were grim. Electrocution. When police arrived, Sushmita's account only deepened the mystery. The night before, Karan had been charging his phone using an extension board. Perhaps, she suggested, a loose wire or faulty charger had sent deadly current through his body. That seemed possible, but then came the questions that wouldn't stop haunting everyone. Why were the burn-like marks only on one hand and his shoulder? Why did froth gather at his lips? Could a mere mobile charger be powerful enough to kill a healthy man of 36? At first, the family resisted the idea of a post-mortem. Grief was too heavy. They wanted no more pain inflicted on Karan's body. But Kunal refused to accept vague theories. He demanded answers. If Paya had no illness, if he was perfectly fine, then why did he die this way? His voice echoed with suspicion. Reluctantly, the family gave in, agreeing to the autopsy. The hospital kept Karen's body overnight, as the official post-mortem could only be conducted the following day. That night, silence consumed the Dev household. Sushmita wept uncontrollably, her son clinging to her. The boy's cries pierced through the air, leaving even the strongest hearts broken. By July 14th, the body was transferred to Deen Dayal Upadhyay Hospital for examination. Doctors carefully collected samples, inspected every mark, every bruise, every detail. They worked for hours while the family waited, torn between hope and dread. The truth would be revealed soon, but sometimes truth doesn't bring peace. Sometimes it opens doors to horrors far worse than ignorance. Later that day, while relatives gathered outside their home, a strange event unfolded. A neighbor approached Kunal, holding a mobile phone and wallet belonging not to Karan, but to Rahul, their cousin and uncle Harish's son. In the chaos following Karan's death, many had entrusted valuables to neighbors for safekeeping. But as fate would have it, when Kunal tried to switch on Rahul's phone, the screen lit up on an app most unexpected: Instagram. The open chat window displayed conversations with someone saved under the name Wifey. For a moment, Kunal dismissed it, until his eyes froze on the profile picture. The woman in the photo wasn't just anyone. It was his sister-in-law, Sushmita, his brother's wife. Kunal's hands trembled as he scrolled through the messages. Each line felt like poison seeping into his veins. Discussions about leaping pills, about electric shocks, about Karan. The ground beneath him seemed to collapse. Was his beloved Bobby, the woman his brother loved dearly, involved in this nightmare, and with their own cousin Rahul? That night, the Dev family was no longer united by grief alone. They were gripped by a chilling suspicion that betrayal and murder had crept into their home, and what they were about to uncover in the coming days would turn their world upside down. The discovery of the Instagram chats hit the Dev family like a thunderclap. It was unthinkable. Kunal's hands shook as he showed the messages to his sister Nasi. They both read in silence, their breaths shallow, their eyes wide with disbelief. The words on the screen were not vague, they were damning. Rahul and Sushmita were discussing things that no innocent conversation could explain. Phrases about sleeping pills, warnings about electric shock, subtle but clear mentions of Karan. Every line screamed of betrayal. It was as if a mask had been ripped away, exposing a hidden truth so dark that the family could barely comprehend it. The siblings decided they couldn't keep this to themselves. They rushed to their mother, Neeru, and played the recorded chats aloud. Her face turned pale, and her legs trembled beneath her. For years, she had trusted her daughter-in-law as her own child. She had welcomed Sushmita with open arms, celebrated her as a blessing for Karan. Now, the realization that this same woman might have been plotting against her son felt like a knife twisting into her chest. The room filled with sobs, whispers, and gasps. But one thing became certain: the family needed to act before the truth was buried forever. The confrontation escalated when Rahul himself gave a shocking counterclaim. He said that he too had been blackmailed by Sushmita. According to him, she had once drugged him in Lucknow, taken compromising videos and photos, and used them to control him. He painted himself as a victim, a young man manipulated into sin by a woman older and more cunning. The community was divided. Who was the mastermind, Sushmita or Rahul? Or were they both equally guilty, bound together by greed and lust? As accusations flew, the air grew heavier with tension. The police finally took Rahul and Sushmita in for questioning. At first, they played the blame game, each pointing fingers at the other. But under the weight of evidence, the chats, the forensic reports, the neighbors' testimonies, they began to crumble. Piece by piece, the truth leaked out, their secret affair, their growing resentment for Karan, the arguments between husband and wife that had broken Sushmita's spirit, the dreams of starting fresh, free of obstacles, and finally, the darkest decision of all, to eliminate Karan entirely. What happened that night no longer felt like a mystery. It began with pills crushed into dinner, a plan as cold as it was cruel. But even then, fate had not played into their hands as smoothly as they had hoped. When the pills didn't act fast enough, when Karan's breath still lingered, they took the final step. Electricity. The extension board became their weapon. In the dead of night, while their son slept innocently in another room, they pressed wires against the man who had trusted them both. Karan's last moments were silent, his body robbed of life by those he loved most. By the time the confession came out, the family was shattered beyond repair. Kunal, Nasi, and their mother could barely stand to hear the details, yet they knew justice demanded the truth be told. The neighborhood, once full of admiration for this family, now buzzed with horror and disbelief. Sushmita and Rahul's betrayal was not just of Karan, but of everyone who had ever trusted them. But even as the police tightened their grip, questions still lingered. Was Sushmita truly a victim of manipulation, or had she orchestrated it all from the start? Was Rahul just a pawn blinded by desire, or an equal conspirator driven by greed? And why had the police delayed for so long, ignoring evidence until the media forced their hand? The confessions were chilling, but the investigation didn't end there. Forensic experts worked tirelessly, piecing together every shred of evidence to reconstruct the truth. The post-mortem report revealed the presence of heavy doses of sedatives in Karan's stomach, proof that he had been drugged before his death. The food he had eaten was only half digested, confirming that the pills had been mixed into his dinner. Traces of electrical burns on his hand and shoulder matched the marks described by the doctors earlier. Together, these findings erased all doubt. Karan's death was no accident. It was a carefully crafted murder. The police collected the leftover tablets from Sushmita's home, matching them with the toxic substances found in Karan's system. They also retrieved the broken extension board and wires marked with burns and residue that told their own silent story. The Instagram chats, video call logs, and CCTV footage showing Rahul near the house on that fateful night sealed the case. Piece by piece, the puzzle fell into place, revealing not just betrayal, but a conspiracy built over months of planning. When questioned further, Rahul admitted that the plan had been discussed for weeks. At first, he hesitated, but Sushmita persuaded him. Divorce, she argued, would strip her of security, property, and dignity. But death would set them free, granting them not only each other, but also Karan's assets. The lure of money, combined with forbidden desire, pushed them past the point of return. Sushmita confessed that she had hidden her son with his grandmother more frequently, knowing she needed time and privacy to prepare. Every step was deliberate, calculated. The courtroom later echoed with the weight of these revelations. Prosecutors painted the picture of a man betrayed not only by his wife, but also by his own cousin. Neighbors testified about Rahul's suspicious late-night visits. Friends and relatives described Karan as a devoted husband and father, a man who had no vices and no enemies. The evidence was overwhelming, and the jury had little doubt about what had truly happened on that July night. For Karan's family, however, justice was bittersweet. Watching Sushmita, once loved as a daughter, stand accused of his murder was unbearable. Seeing Rahul, their own blood, shackled and disgraced, cut even deeper. The betrayal was too personal, too cruel. They had lost Karan forever, and though prison awaited the guilty, no sentence could bring him back or heal the scars left behind. As news channels broadcast the story, the nation reacted with shock. People debated endlessly. Was Sushmita a heartless conspirator or a woman manipulated by blackmail and threats? Was Rahul merely blinded by desire, or had greed transformed him into a monster? The story raised uncomfortable questions about love, loyalty, and the hidden darkness that can exist even within families. Sushmita's own parents wept in silence. They defended her at first, saying she acted out of fear, that she was trapped by Rahul's threats. But even they struggled to explain the evidence. Why had she continued meeting Rahul? Why had she allowed the relationship to go so far? Why had she chosen silence instead of reaching out for help? Her choices left behind a trail of contradictions that even her loved ones could not untangle. In prison, both Rahul and Sushmita faced a grim reality. Their once secret passion had become their cage. The very relationship they destroyed a life for was now poisoned by guilt, mistrust, and the certainty of a future behind bars. Their dreams of starting anew had died with Karan, leaving only regret and disgrace. For Kunal, Nasi, and their mother, life was never the same. They raised Karan's son with the love of an entire family, trying to shield him from the horrors of the past. But as he grew, questions would one day surface, questions no child should have to ask. Why was his father taken so young? Why did his mother betray them all? And could love and trust ever mean the same thing again? This story, though deeply tragic, carries a warning that extends beyond one family. It shows how greed and secrecy can corrode even the strongest bonds, how silence in the face of threats can lead to disaster, and how betrayal often comes from where it is least expected. Karan lost his life, Sushmita lost her freedom, Rahul lost his future, and an innocent child lost both parents in different ways. And yet, one haunting question remains. When pushed to the edge by fear, desire, or greed, how well do we truly know the people closest to us?